Now, madam, you carry on.
Yes, ma'am. 5 minutes. You continue. Oh, okay. A very good morning to one and all. I welcome you all for today's day 2 session. Let us welcome today's speaker, Dr. Ananta Narayan, sir. I'll give.
Thank you, madam.
Yes, sir. Let me take this pleasure to give a small introduction about today's speaker. Dr. Ananta Narayan currently serves as assistant professor at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Amrita School of Engineering, Coimbatore campus. His areas of research include mobile computing, embedded systems, wireless heterogeneous networks, quality of service and security, Internet of Things, node design, energy optimization, communication protocols. Dr. Anantanarayan is currently serving as advisor for 3 full-time, 1 part-time PhD research scholars, and as co-advisor for 4 part-time PhD research scholars under Amrita Vishwa Vidyapitam, Coimbatore. He is member of ISTE, the Institute of Engineers, Institute of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers, Association for Computing Machinery, Computer Science Teacher Associations, and a Chartered Engineer certified by IE. He is also serving as Honorary Secretary of IETE Coimbatore Center, mentor for Atal Tinkering Labs under Atal Innovation Mission, a Government of India project on a voluntary basis. He has more than 20 publications in reputed journals to his credit. He published book chapter in Spinger. Okay, so thank you, sir. Welcome, sir, for the today's session.
Thank
I'll
you very
hand over
much,
the session
madam.
to yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. I have to thank the management, principal, head of the department, and the organizers of A.G. Patel Institute of Technology for giving us an opportunity to stand before you for conducting this faculty development program for refresher course in this the emerging technology of Internet of Things. Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me to the professors community who are attending today's faculty development program. Shall I continue my session, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will start my presentation. So very good morning to one and all. I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Fine, okay. So in the today's session, what we planned was, in the first session, we will discuss about the identification of things, device management, service discovery and service management, which will be followed by the IoT application protocols like MQTT, CoAP, WebSockets. And after the lunch break, we will have a detailed discussion of how to integrate the IoT end devices with the edge and the cloud computing infrastructure followed by some hands-on exercise related with the IoT application protocols and the cloud. This session will give you the necessary foundations for working with the hardware and to understand the various protocols related with IoT, as well as integrating the end devices with the edge or cloud. And the tomorrow sessions fully devoted for the AWS cloud needs fundamental understanding of today's session, where we will give you an overall idea about the integration of end with edge and cloud. So I hope in the second day, I will be able to transfer the technology related with IoT end devices, the various application protocols, and the integration mechanisms with some demos wherever possible. And I request all the participating members to interact or to interrupt whenever there is any queries or whenever you need some more explanations or clarifications on the particular topics that are going to be discussed. I hope the session is arranged in such a way that you will be able to get all the necessary knowledge from the fundamental to the deployment level related with this Internet of Things. Fine. So moving further, we have to refer the IoT policy document from Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology from Government of India. When we think about or when we read that the policy document from IT, we came to understand that the IoT policy has three distinct stages. One is the sensors which collect the data. When we say the sensors which collect the data, there is a need for identification or addressing the particular sensor or device. The second important stage is the application which collect and analyze this data for further processing consolidation. The third stage is more important, in which you will have the inferences out of the data. The third stage is nothing but the decision making and the transmission of data to the decision making server. Analytical engines, big data may be used for the decision making process. So the three important stages are the end devices with the sensors and actuators, the middleware, the application which collect and analyze the data, and the third one is the decision making units. So in the today's session, the first session will be more towards the identification, device management, and the service management, service discovery and management. So from that, it is very clear that in any IoT applications, identification of things is going to play the major role. Therefore, first we have to know about what are called things in an internet. So the things in an internet varies from computers, sensors, people, actuators, refrigerators, TVs, vehicle, and so on. They are actually classified into three scopes: the people, the machine, and the information. So everything in an IoT should be identified by at least one unique way of identification for the capability of addressing and communicating with each other and verifying their identities. That is why the today's first session is more focusing on the identification, device management, and the service discovery and the management. I had given you one URL, which is from the AIoTI, Alliance for Internet of Things Innovation, who is responsible for standardizing the identification of things. So with this brief introduction, we move further. So some small questions before you. Can any one of you tell what are the various communication identifiers which we are daily use in our day-to-day activities? Any one of the participants, please? So, professors and other participating members, okay. So please interact with the resource people. Yesterday also I had attended, okay, and there was a good interaction from the participants, and even in the query sessions, right? You had posted many queries, so we were very happy. And it is right; it is not a one-way communications. Okay, so if I understand right, what is your expectations and what is your previous exposure to this, so that we can fine tune this one-day session, right, in a better way to have as much as possible transfer of technology from our end to your end. And for your information, right, apart from my regular teaching responsibility, I am also serving as a consultant for few companies in and around the Coimbatore district for making their devices as a smart devices. Okay, wherever possible, I will explain with that demonstration also, right? The only thing is, okay, some kind of right support from the participant sides. Can any one of you, right, tell me your idea about that?
Sir, GPS.
Fine.
Call identifier.
Caller identifier, exactly. Great, sir. So thank you for your valuable inputs. So the GPS, geotag location, is a good identifier. And the caller identifier, that is the mobile number, is a good communication identifier. I hope, right, you all accept IP address as an identifier. Am I right? Because we now have IPv version 6, which is of 128 bits. Most of the IoT devices, right, can be given with a unique IPv6 address. So the communication identifier may be an IP address, mobile phone number. My question is, are they enough? Definitely not. We need to have some more identifier, because apart from identification of the communication, we need to identify the things, the services, the users, the data, and the locations. As one of the professors told, the GPS tag will be used as a location identifier. Therefore, the Alliance for Internet of Things Innovation, Working Group 3, IoT Identifier Task Force was set up to take care of this. I request the participants to make a note of that. If you are into any one of the IoT projects for an industrial applications, or for any third-party applications, you must always follow certain standards. For example, when you design an IoT project, even in the academic level, we have to have some IoT reference architecture. You can follow the Open IoT reference architecture or Cisco IoT reference architecture. Any one of the reference architecture should be followed by from the scratch, even for the academic projects, so that later on you can elevate that academic level project into an industrial grade. Therefore, you have to refer certain standard documents like IoT policy document from Government of India or identification documents from AIoTI. So from the scratch, from the design, if you adapt it to certain standard documents, definitely you can easily elevate our academic level project into the industrial grade. That is why wherever possible, we will introduce you the standard documents also. So one of the documents which you have to refer is called the AIoTI Working Group 3 IoT Identifier Task Force document, right? So look at here. So I request the participants to spend 1 or 2 minutes in this slide before I give an explanation for this slide. I request all the participants to go through this slide. This is one of the very, very important slide related with IoT identification. I will keep silent for next 60 seconds. Fine. So welcome back. If you look into here, you can understand the need of identification of things in an IoT deployment. So look at here. The user has to be identified. Normally, we will have the RMN called registered mobile number or email as a user identification. The next thing is your system has to be identified. Normally, we will make use of an IP address as an identifier. For example, if I apply for any government organizations for admissions or something, they will normally write, identify me through my registered mobile number, registered email address, and sometime I may be permitted to do certain task only through the particular IP address. So all these things plays the major role for identification, the user identification, communication identifier, maybe an IP address or Bluetooth MAC address. So normally every device, right, when they have a network interface, they will have a unique media access control address, MAC address. So when you move further, when you move to the next level, every application and the service has to be identified. And for that, we have the universal resource identifier, universal resource name, and the universal resource locator. At the end of this session, we will also discuss about the importance of URL, URI, and the URN in the context of IoT. So apart from that, you need to identify the location. You need to identify even the information, the data. So all these things put together, we are in a position to understand the identification of things. It may be people, it may be the hardware things, including actuators, sensors, devices, and even it can include the software entities, that is your unique data. So all these things put together, we have to understand what is the need of an identifier before proceeding further. So identifier is a pattern to uniquely identify a single entity or a class of entity within a specific context. So before moving further, I will put one more question before you. We are all now familiar with the various coding techniques for identification. Can you list a few specific coding techniques? Not the information coding, right? Coding techniques to identify the things which are used by us in a day-to-day life activities. Can any one of you tell few such a techniques? Even one or two such a techniques. Take a scenario of a supermarket. Okay, I will give a simple scenario. In Tamil Nadu, okay, in some government hospital, they will write when the child is born, immediately the child has to be tagged with the parent's name, because there is a lot of theft of the newborn child in a government hospitals. So immediately in the labor ward itself, after cleaning of the baby will be tagged with the identification for his or her parents.
RFID.
Can anyone of you? RFID, exactly. Thank you, sir. So RFID tag. So the child will be tagged with an RFID tag which contains all the vital informations related with their parent. So similarly in our day-to-day life, thank you, sir, we have a printed numbers, barcode, QR code, RFID, even the near field communication tag, NFC tag. So these are all used by us in a day-to-day life. So they will also contribute to the identification of things. And for the theoretical aspects, I am in a position to give you some more additional concepts related with the theory part also. This is one of the very important architecture which should be understood by every one of us. That is the high-level architecture for IoT identifier. I hope this has to be followed by us while we design our project in the domain of IoT. So the first thing is the thing will be in the bottom level. It should be identified. For example, if I want to fetch the temperature and the humidity available in the mobile and wireless networks of academic block 3 of the Amrita School of Engineering Coimbatore campus, then that particular temperature and humidity sensor, yesterday class, right, you had a demo related with that weather monitoring system, in which professor had shown you one temperature and humidity sensor also, right? THD 175, I hope. Sorry, RHT, relative humidity and temperature, RHT 175. So how you can, there may be, right, hundreds of such temperature and humidity sensor spread across the campus in the Amrita School of Engineering, Coimbatore, how I can point to the particular temperature and humidity sensor which is fitted in the mobile and wireless networks in the second floor of academic block 3 of Amrita School of Engineering, Coimbatore campus. It has to be properly identified, the thing identifier. And that particular thing has to interact with the device, because you may need some Arduino board or board from the microchip or Texas Instruments. You need a microcontroller to connect that sensor, and the microcontroller need to communicate to the outside world. Therefore, it has to be connected to the IoT device, and the IoT device must offer certain services. For example, if I want to fetch that particular temperature value, it has to be provided as a service. So the service has to be identified, the sensor has to be identified, the device to which the sensor gets connected has to be identified, and as an end user, I have to authenticate myself, because certain services can be accessed by certain end users only. Certain services may be open to all. Certain services will be closed services that are accessible only for a group of people. Therefore, every user has to also identify himself. So finally, if you look into here, as an end user, through my mobile application, if I want to fetch the temperature of my mobile and wireless networks lab, for me, I understand that I am directly interacting with the sensor, but actually through the application, through the device, and through the device, I'm going to fetch the particular sensor value. So all these things are in a hierarchical way, in which when you design any IoT applications, you have to plan the different levels. Then only you will be able to scale up your IoT project into a massive level. That is why you have to follow certain standard reference document. And at the same time, we are in a position to provide the identification for the communication level also, the communication identifier. And at the same time, we are in a position to know about the very important concept called digital twin. Digital twin is nothing but a digital replica of a physical entities. Amazon Web Services is providing device shadow as a contribution towards the digital twin. I request the participants to make a note of this keyword digital twin. So the digital twin is nothing but a virtual entity. You can see that data identifier, right? With a virtual entity. It is a digital replication of the physical entity. Why you need that? Why you need the virtual entity? It's very simple. Because in certain areas, the connections may not be reliable. You may have intermittent connectivity. In such a scenario, whenever there is a poor connectivity, your device may get disconnected to the cloud or the edge. In such a cases, if the end user wants to fetch some information related to the device, related to the particular thing, if it is disconnected, he may not be able to get the actual data. In such a cases, the digital replica of the actual physical entity through the digital twin concept will provide the necessary information to the end user through the end applications. We will have a detailed discussion of the digital twin further. So with this high-level architecture, we move further. I request all the participants to go through this slide. It's a very good slide which gives you the idea about various working groups that are providing support for identification for the particular domain. For example, if my use case is related with smart energy, I have to refer the document provided by working group 12. If my use case is related with smart city, I have to refer the working group 8 document. And for your information, can any one of the participants? Yes, madam. Any problem? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, fine. So this is one of the very important slide for upgrading your projects to the industrial grade. If my project is related with smart energy, I have to refer the document provided by working group 12 of AIoTI. One simple question before you. Suppose if you want to provide the secured way of exchanging the data, which working group you have to follow? That's a question before you. Out of the various things, which is related with data security? Please make an attempt. Whether it is right or wrong, no problem.
IoT policy working group 04.
IoT policy working group 04, okay, will provide all necessary standardization, including the security. Thank you, sir. And there is one more technology, more specific. Can you identify, sir? Out of the various things in this slide, one technology is more specific to data security. Have you ever crossed the term blockchain? Blockchain for IoT?
Yes, sir.
Which technology is related to blockchain here? Distributed ledger. So the distributed ledger technology is integrated with all domain because security is needed for all domain. That is why, right, it is not belonging to one particular group. It is integrated with all working group. So if you want to have a security through blockchain for your IoT applications, you can adopt the recommendations given by working group 3 called distributed ledger technology. Fine. Thank you, and we proceed further. And for time constraint, I'm not explaining about each and every working group, but purposely I had given a detailed explanation for each working group because you can make this presentation as your reference material for further exploration. Throughout this session, purposely I will skip some slides. The slides were populated with many informations so that at a later time in the offline, you can refer and you can gather much more information for your further reference. Fine. So this is the working group blockchain that is called the distributed ledger technology is working on mapping current blockchain implementation, rating the model towards current legal complaints, and to assist all existing AIoT working groups on the blockchain implementations and to develop blockchain ecosystem across the different verticals. Why we have to think about the compliances? For example, if you are developing an applications which can be used across the globe in different continents, then you have to follow the international standards. For example, one of the standard regulations for the data compliance is called the Global Data Protection Regulation. So if you want to deploy your applications in the Europe Union, definitely your application should comply with the standards posted by the GDPR, and it has to be verified that your applications followed all the compliance rules of GDPR, audited by the third party, approved third party. Therefore, while designing an application from the scratch, we have to design our project in such a way that it always comply with the international standards for various IoT applications. So I request all the participants to make this, note this URL. If you are working with the data science side, it will give you more idea about the various data protection rules and regulations. We move further. And the next few minutes, we will discuss about the various identifiers that we have to consider for the IoT applications. They are very interesting also, and many of the things are already known to you. There is no doubt. The first thing is everything has to be identified. Your communication interface has to be identified. User has to be identified. Individual data has to be identified. Location, protocol, application, and the service has to be identified. So we classified the identification into 7 different areas, and each area we will move further. Fine. So the first one, thing identifier. So identify the entity of interest of the particular IoT applications. It can be a physical object like machines, properties, human, animals, plant, or any digital data, a file, a data set, or a metadata. Basically, anything that one can interact through an application. So this is called the thing identifier, and I will show you one simple example how you can identify a thing. For example, few minutes, I will show you one similar site. So I'm going to log in into an IoT site called bin.textile.com. It is a online monitoring application. Just a minute. We are logging into the site. Fine. So it is an online monitoring for the weaving industry. There are many looms, textile looms, right, in this industry. I want to know the performance of a particular loom. Fine. So if you look at here, can any one of you tell what mechanism is used to identify the different machines? For example, I have machine 2, 3, 12, 16, 4, 13, and so on. They are the serial number. But what is the unique number assigned to identify a particular machine in these particular applications? I hope the screen is visible to the participants. There is a time and date stamp. Am I right? There is a labeling. What is the unique identifier? The unique identifier is nothing but IP address. Yes or no? Is it visible? Any one of the participants, right, can interact with me so that I can understand whether the screen is visible or are you able to proceed further. If the screen is visible, and will you able to see the identification mechanism adapted here?
Visible, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are
visible,
audible.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just for checking. So here, the different loom machines were identified through IP address, right? So the Texol company, which is providing the online monitoring of various weaving machines in and around Coimbatore and Tirupur, they have adapted to identify the machine through a unique IP address. So similarly, everyone will have its own way of identification. For example, if you look into the smart street light monitoring maintained by the Andhra Pradesh state government, every street light will has its unique way of identification. And as one of the participants told, a group of street lights will be tagged with the GPS locations. For example, if you look into here, and if I click any one of that, you can see this is identified through latitude and longitude, the GPS tag. So this particular street light is fitted in the area whose GPS tag is latitude with 15.13546, longitude with 78.51144. There are totally 32 street lights connected here, and the landmark is SLEW Masjid line. Totally, this smart street light cluster will consume 692 watts. You can see a lot of such street lights were maintained by the smart street applications. You can see totally there are 2,636 lights connected. Every light has to be individually identified. It has to be individually monitored, and you may also in a position to control it individually. So now you can understand the importance of identification of things. With that, we move further. So the next thing is the need for thing identifier was explained with the weaving online monitoring provided by the Texol. And now we move further. Why we need things identifier? You may be in a position to develop an application for predictive maintenance, asset tracking, logistics, the provenance and control of track and trace information. All these things, right, plays the major role for things identification. Think about the COVID situation. Now, every medicine, right, the vaccination medicines, when it is transported from the manufacturing plant to the outlet, has to be completely monitored through the IoT deployment. So you can understand every lot of medicines, right, will be completely monitored, and their assets were tracked properly through the IoT applications. For that, we need identification. Next, For giving you an idea, we take an example. The things in AWS IoT core will be identified through these mechanisms. For example, everything in your AWS IoT core should have a thing's name. Here I had given the name as a my light bulb. And it must have a client ID. It must have type of the things. And it must also have certain attributes related to the type of the device. Since it is a lamp, it has model number and the wattage. Suppose if I am having a grinding machine, then the grinding machine should have make, model number, wattage, as well as the capacity of the motor and other specific details that are more specific to the particular device. All of you make a note of that. The thing name will be the default MQTT client ID in a AWS IoT environment. This information will be helpful for your tomorrow's session. Fine. So with that, we move further. Look at the screen and understand, right, the importance of the identification in things. Ceiling lamp in kitchen. Network interface may have IPv4 or IPv6. End user interface 64-bit generated from Mac. Or you can have a barcode at a device. So these are all some of the interesting things. And before moving further, I wish to introduce you one of the very popular international identification code called OID, Object Identifier. So the object identifier will have different fields through which you can understand. For example, 0 stands for, it is a machine-to-machine device identifier. And you can identify the managing organization, administration part, data country code, M2M device, who manufactured the device, what is the model, what is the serial number. Everything can be identified across the globe through the OID or the electronic product code. Similarly, your mobile phone will be identified through IMEI, International Mobile Equipment Identity. So these are all the various things where you can adapt. For example, the Bosch, Robert Bosch company have their unique way of identifying various spare parts that were manufactured by them to avoid the duplicates or the parts that were manufactured by the third party, okay, that will damage the name of the Bosch. So to avoid the duplicates, every Bosch spare will have a unique identification through Bosch secure code label. It is another way of, right, identifying the various things they are manufactured by the Bosch. Next, we move further, the communication identifier. So you can have MAC address, IP address, phone number, even the HTTP session number can be used. Fine. So one question for the participants. Suppose if you are in an e-commerce site, when you log in into the same site in the next time, how it is able to identify you that last time you searched a particular brand of coffee or particular brand of tea, through which mechanism it is able to identify you? I hope there are some participants from computer science background. Please support me.
IP address.
IP address, okay. Last time I sit in my office, now I am at home, right? Even though it is able to identify apart from IP address. Apart from IP address, yeah, please.
HTTP session
Ethernet MAC.
Ethernet MAC, fine. There is one more interesting concept. That is why I'm asking. Ethernet MAC will be also changed, sir, because when you change the machine, office machine will have a different Ethernet MAC, and my home machine may have a different MAC address. Naturally, in office, I will connect to intranet, through which I will connect to my service provider. Here, I directly connect to service provider. So IP and MAC will not support me.
Sir, HTTP session token.
Exactly, HTTP session token. And another interesting thing is, I hope some of you crossed the term called cookies.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, cookies. So that is why, for example, if you do any bank transactions in a public machine, suppose in an urgent way, if I want to do some bank transaction, if I go to a internet cafe, okay, a public machine, where I did some bank transactions, while log out, okay, I have to delete all the cookies. I have to delete all the history. Why? Cookies will store all your information. Okay, that is why the people will say, right, even if you go to some site, they will say, right, this is our policy, you have to accept the cookies, right, to get the full flexibility, full-fledged, right, operation of our website or e-commerce application like that. Okay, cookies is going to play the major role. Okay, that is why, right, apart from the token, right, session identifier, the cookies will also play the major role. Clear? That is why, right, when you are doing some e-commerce or banking applications in the third-party machines, don't forget to delete all the cookies, because cookies will act as an identifier. So we move further. The user identifier, we all know. Suppose if I go to booking my gas, right, LPG gas provided by Government of India, Bharat Petroleum or something. Okay, first they will ask, what is your mobile number? They never worry about my name, because in Tamil Nadu, right, if you take Murugan, Sivakumar, it is a very popular name. In a street, there will be 10 Murugan, 20 Sivakumar. Okay, so they never worry about the name. They will always ask, right, when you stand before the booking counter, first they will ask, what is your mobile number? If I say my mobile number, if they type, then my history will come there. So that is called register mobile number. So user identification will be done through such a things. And the next important thing is application access to the things should also be identified, because the certain IoT applications are very critical, and those applications, right, has to be fetched through the registered applications. Because the thing is, some malware may be in the infected applications. That malware may affect your IoT environment. That is why in most of the cases, like e-healthcare or the logistics companies, they will ask you to download their applications from the authorized websites. You will be permitted to do transactions only through their authorized applications. Therefore, every application has to identify itself to the system with a unique key. So the system checks that the application has proper rights to access the things and perform the intended actions. And coming to the data identifier, you all know that every individual element, for example, for this, I will show you one interesting application here. That is a temperature demo here. Fine. So I hope you are able to see a ThingSpeak site. Correct? A ThingSpeak site. In the afternoon, we will also show you a simple demonstration with this. So this shows the temperature value with the timestamp. Fine. So there may be millions of users registered in the ThinkSpeak. Each user may have 1 or 10 or more number of devices. Each device may have 1 or more sensors. How I can identify a particular data? So the thing is very simple. I hope, right? You are able to see a API key for writing and reading. The API key will be a unique to you that will identify your application. And after that unique API key, you have to give another 2 important things. They are called the field identity and the device ID. So in the afternoon session, I will show you the complete way of how to push the data into a ThinkSpeak cloud. From that, you will be able to understand what are the various parameters you have to supply to identify your particular data element. What are the things you have to give? You have to say what is your read API key. You have to say what is your device ID. And then you have to say what is your channel ID. And then you have to say what is your field ID. So finally, when you say what is your particular field, then only you will be able to identify your particular data. Can you see here the channel ID 569084584, right? So this is the channel ID for my particular channel, and in that particular channel, I can have 8 fields, and each field will have a particular identity. So through the different hierarchy, by giving the API key, by giving the device ID, by giving the channel ID, by giving the field ID, I will be able to get a particular data. And the digital twin, as we already told, it is a digital replica of a physical assets. It will play the major role when there is a intermittent connectivity between the sensing device and the cloud. Whenever there is an intermittent connectivity, so that particular digital twin, digital replica will provide you the last fetched values. Okay, we call them as a last testament. Okay, so it will be able to provide what is the last fetched value, and it will say currently it is disconnected. When it gets connected, it will update its status automatically without any refresh or any configurations from the end user side. So the AWS is providing device shadow as a service for the digital twin. Location identifier, we all know that the GPS, in the yesterday's session also, professor had given you a detailed idea about the GPS tag. Okay, so the GPS coordinations will be used as a location identifier. Even IP address is also used as a location identifier. So we can relate the real estate maintenance. Think about 100 acres or 1,000 acres, right? How a big farm, right, can maintain their estate. How the big companies or corporate, right, will maintain their estate. They are all maintained through the GPS tag, right? This is another interesting area where you can look further. And finally, we come to the protocol identifier and the application identifier. I will take 3 more minutes to conclude this identification before moving to the other topic. So the protocol identifier will be the type of your Ethernet type, IPv6 next header, URI scheme. So all these things contribute to the protocol identifier. For example, look at here in the IP header, there is a version number called 4 or 6 that will identify whether you have to follow the V4 standards or V6 standards. Similarly, if you take in the Ethernet frame, the Ethernet type 2 byte type. If it is 0800, you will have an IP payload above this Ethernet frame. So whenever the MAC header contains 0x0800, you can blindly say that you are following the IP payload in the network layer, because in the network layer there are three popular networks. That is, you have an IP address. In the older days, we have an IPX address. And before the TCP/IP becomes popular, we have AppleTalk address, 24-bit address. IPX is a 80-bit address. It was very popular in the early 90s when TCP/IP becomes open standard, and due to the popularity of TCP/IP, it becomes the de facto standard for any network communications. So for each and everything, there is a need for identification. That is why we are giving more information related with that, and we move further. So these are all giving a much more information about the IPv4, IPv6 header, how to process, and finally we come to the last part of the identification, that is every service, every applications and every service has to register themselves in the IoT environment, and every service must have a unique identity. So in the forenoon session itself, next half an hour, we will discuss with the device management and the service management, in which we will have a detailed discussions about the service identification and the service management. So with this, we are going to conclude the identification part. For example, in a ThingSpeak cloud, the channel, field, location, write API, read API keys are playing the major role in identification of things. And a small exercise and activity for you is to understand about the URI, URN, and URL. For example, URI, Universal Resource Identifier, is a superset which contains two things. One is for identifying the name called Universal Resource Name. Say Ananda Narayanan. Another is URL, Universal Resource Locator. If you want to reach me, you want to know about my street name, door number, postal code, district and state. So the door number, street name, the location, taluk, district, state, all these things contribute to the URL. Ananda Narayanan contribute to URN. URN and URI, URL putting together is a superset called URI, Universal Resource Identifier, which is a superset. This is given as an activity for you to further explore about the role of URI in the context of IoT. And this URL will give you more idea to explore further about the identification. With this, I will give you a 1-minute short break before moving to the device management for throwing any question related with identification. Your time starts now. 1 minute time for making the queries from your side related with identification. Sorry, there is a background noise. Okay, I will solve that issue shortly. Shall we move further? Any one of the participants, please tell, have you got the fundamental idea about the need of identification? Any one of you, please share your idea. We will discuss about the device management and the service management for the next 25 minutes. And then we will have a small break. Then we will resume the session. This is the plan. I hope I'm not boring you. And I hope you are able to get some information, right, which are relevant to this context and which are new to you also. Am I right? Any one of you, please respond.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Thank you. Now, dear participants, right, while I'm doing the consultancy services to a center of development in edge computing at Coimbatore, okay, we were in a position to manage the various devices, right, supplied by us to the local industries here. At the time only we came to know about the various challenges that were related with the device management. Really, manufacturing the device is not a very big task if we have sufficient team. Managing the device remotely is a very tough task. And for your information, the IoT device lifecycle management is really a challenging one, through which only you can satisfy your customer. Through the customer satisfaction only, we will be able to get good reference for our business. So in such a cases, the device management includes the device onboarding, device registration authentication, device configuration and control, device monitoring and diagnostics, software update and maintenance, and device offboarding. For example, if I say my device will have a lifetime of 5 years, at the end of the 5th year, or even before that, when we come up with a new version, we should be able to offboard the old devices that has to be replaced with the new devices. So these are all the key stages: onboarding, registration, authentication, configuration, control, monitoring, diagnostics, maintenance, and the device offboarding. So all these things plays the major role. Therefore, the key term you have to understand is, in an IoT device, it is not fire and forget scenario. You have to do a continuous management. The continuous management requires fixing the bugs, updating the software. Whenever there is a device failure, you should be able to repair them remotely or physically. In case of the permanent failure, you have to replace them with the minimal downtime. For your information, one of the popular elevator company, ThyssenKrupp, was able to maintain their millions of elevators across the globe with a very minimal downtime. Actually, they are claiming zero downtime. The ThyssenKrupp German-based elevator, they are claiming that they were able to run more than 100 million hours without even a single downtime, single minute of downtime. They had a tie-up with Microsoft Azure as an IoT cloud infrastructure, and the CGI is providing the software services. We will discuss about the use case also. So now you can understand the importance of the device management. With a proper device management through the IoT infrastructure, then only they will be able to claim such a huge thing, unimaginable thing. So look at here, the key benefits of IoT device lifecycle management is always you want to maximize the device uptime. You want to reduce the service response time through quick alerts or alarms. You want to increase the service reliability, reduction in operational and support cost through remote software update and device maintenance. So for the purpose of reference, as I already told, I had populated this PPT with many theory information. I will quickly go through these different slides. So suppose if a new customer added into my IoT applications, or in the weaving industry, if they added 10 more looms, weaving looms, I have to add one IoT device to each loom. Once I attach that, I have to bring the device into onboard. So the device onboard requires provisioning and authentication. Every device has to authenticate itself through the unique device ID and its credentials. And the next thing is, once the device gets authenticated itself by providing its proper credentials, it will get registered into the site. I hope you had seen some of the machines, right, listed in the weaving.dexol.com. Suppose if an intruder with a false device gets connected to my infrastructure, and if he gives a false alarm continuously to disturb me, my entire operation will be disturbed. So how can I identify that that particular device is an unauthorized one? So through the device provisioning and authentication, only the authorized devices will get connected to my IoT system. Like a user authentication, every device has to authenticate itself through its make, model number, serial number, unique device ID, along with the organization ID. So the device provisioning and authentication is one of the very important things. And the next thing is, I have to configure the device in a proper way so that it not only puts the data to my IoT system, I also control it from the remote end. The sensors, the source of data, actuators, the actual control units to control the environment are attached to any device. Therefore, sensing and control should be properly configured. For example, depends on the nature of the data, I have to configure them properly. For example, some vital informations in a e-healthcare, say pulse rate, body temperature. You need not push the body temperature for every 1 minute. Say body temperature of a patient can be monitored, say every 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Whereas pulse rate is a continuous one. So you have to stream the pulse rate. Whereas the body temperature of the patient is discrete data, has to be pushed for every 15 minutes. And the blood sugar level maybe 3 times per day. So depends on the nature of the data. You have to configure your device. The configuration can be done either through the serial port or through wireless over the remote end, from the remote end over the wireless, right? So all these things has to be provided. And the next thing is, there is a need for having continuous monitoring and diagnostics of the devices, particularly for the critical devices, right? You have to have a periodical monitoring. Whenever there is a false alarm raised, you should be able to understand the nature of the alarm, and you should be able to remotely diagnose the nature of fault. If possible, with the minimal downtime, you should be able to recover them. So the remote monitoring and the diagnostics is another important feature. Next, very important things, the maintenance and update. For example, after some time, if the client makes a complaint that there are some bugs, say after 30 minutes or 35 minutes, or after certain time, the board gets heated more and it gets shut down. The internal temperature sensing, right, gives an interrupt to shut down the device. So in such a cases, you want to modify the code. Either you may be able to disable certain things, or you may be in a position to change the threshold value. Or in some cases, there may be some security bugs also. Your device may be in a position to update its driver with the latest patches to provide the security against certain reported incidents. So there is a lot of need for the software maintenance and update that has to be done through the device management. And the most important thing is the device offboarding. For example, if I want to change my mobile phone, and if there is any offer, say exchange offer, will I simply hand over my mobile phone after removing the SIM card and the memory card to the shopkeeper? What are the things I have to take care before handing over my mobile phone to the shopkeeper for exchange? Can anyone of you please respond? Just to make it live, anyone of you please interact. If I want to exchange my mobile phone with a new one, okay, I removed my SIM card, I removed my memory card. Will I hand over directly? Will I hand over the mobile phone to them without doing any activities? Please, anyone respond. What are the things you have to take care while offboarding the device?
I think Mac ID, sir.
Okay, Mac ID. In the application software level, what are the things you will do?
We should
Suppose-
restore.
Restore the factory default setting.
Yes, sir.
Am I right, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, correct. Why? Yeah, thank you very much. Why we have to restore to the factory default? You may did so many configuration. For example, in my mobile phone, I may have my banking application, in which, right, I will store my all credentials by default. And in my phone book, I will have a lot of my friends' contact detail, email ID. And in my mobile phone, I may have my academic management user credentials, through which I can directly go to the exam cell server. So without doing deregistering or without uninstalling these applications, if I simply remove my SIM card and remove my memory card and hand over the mobile phone, all the vital informations will be available, right? Local. So similarly in the industry also, when you offboard and when you sell the hardware for the old rates, right? The opposite party may be able to know user. Therefore, offboarding is another important thing. That is why the Open Mobile Alliance device management, lightweight machine-to-machine protocols are giving the standard. I request all the participants to make a note of this. OMA DM is the standard document to refer for the device management. And I have given some URL in the offline. You can go through and you can get much more idea about the device management. Complete device management. You can also explore about XIoT, which will provide a good interface for doing the device management, device provisioning, firmware update, software update, lifecycle management, fleet management, and health monitoring of your device also. This is one of the practical sites where you can explore further about XIoT cloud. And due to the time constraint, in the presentation, I had given you a use case that is Vestel. Vestel is a washing machine manufacturing company. They are using AWS IoT for the device management. Every device, right? They may distribute thousands or millions of washing machines across the globe. If they come to know that there is a security bug, will they send the individual service engineer to every home? No. Through over the air, OTA, they will be able to update the firmware through air. So the next few slides will give you the complete idea. I request the participants to go through them in the offline. I will straight away go to the final slide. Here you can understand that the device will have a basic bootloader. The old image has to be updated with a new image. So if you look at here, whenever there is a bug, whenever it has to be updated, the new image has to be pushed into your washing machine over the air. All the devices will have their registry entry in the AWS IoT core. In the tomorrow session, Dr. Gautam will give you the scenario. Through the over-the-air update OTA agent, you will be able to load the new image, and the new image, after testing, self-testing, will become the primary image and the old one will be removed. And after the reset, your washing machine will be coming with the updated firmware so that you will be able to get new services, as well as all the security bugs will be fixed by the new firmware. So for that, you need device management. Few use cases of device management further to be explored by you are the Expedia, Induit, Shell, Brooks Brothers. They have given a wonderful document for the AWS IoT device management and the core deployment also. So I request the participants to go through these use cases to have better understanding of the device management. The service and other part MQTT will be handled after a 10 minutes break. May I request the coordinator to give a short break? Coordinator, madam, are you available? Actually, we plan to give a short break by 11:30. Now the time is around 11:26.
Yes, sir. We will take 10 minutes break.
And then we will get connected. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. But I will be available in the meeting. Mic will be muted, sir. Okay. Thank you. So during this time, right, participant can also have a logical break, biological break. And I request the participants, right, before the start of the session, okay, please throw some questions before me to make it more interesting. Thank you.